Okay, so Kirk Cousins is, in my eyes, the most polarizing player in the entire NFL. You got groups of people that will die on the hill that Kirk is an overrated empty stats guy at best, and other groups that, well, the point I'm trying to make here is that nobody really knows what school of thought is objectively correct when it comes to Kirk Cousins. But that's kind of the beauty of his career, isn't it? I mean, it's always been this way. Even going back to his first year in the NFL, Kirk Cousins has always shown the ability to be great, even when he's put in not so good situations. In 2012, remember, he was drafted to be a backup plan for RG3 after the Shanahans executed Order 66. In the time he got to shine, Kirk actually was proving himself, becoming a fan favorite until he was finally able to start in 2015. But here's where the Kirk Cousins conundrum sort of begins, because in 2015, he had a good year, and if I want to be extra nice to him, from weeks 10 through 17, dude had a 126.1 passer rating and almost got Washington into the playoffs. But keyword being almost. Kirk Cousins almost was amazing. By year's end, PFF had Kirk Cousins ranked at around the 13th best quarterback in the league, about average. Bleacher Report had Kirk Cousins ranked as, guess what, the 15th best quarterback in the league, about average. Most people were looking at Kirk Cousins like he was, guess what, a very good average quarterback, which is why Washington decided to not sign Kirk Cousins to a long-term deal and hit him with a franchise tag for 2016. And then 2016 came around and went by, and nothing really happened for Kirk Cousins. The Skins didn't make the playoffs. Kirk played well, but not great. So what did Washington do? Well, they decided to do it again. They slapped another franchise tag on Big Kirko's crusty derriere and ran it back in 2017, only for Kirk and company come up short again. But Kirk Cousins kind of started to break his own mold a little bit because the Minnesota Vikings were hungry for a franchise quarterback. And remember, they had just made the NFC Championship game and took down Drew Brees in a very calm and collected manner. And honestly though, all jokes aside, they truly were one great quarterback away from contending for a Super Bowl. In 2017, the Vikings had the best defense in the entire NFL statistically, with Harrison Smith and others, as well as an amazing offense. So when the Vikings made Kirk Cousins the second highest paid quarterback in the entire NFL, people were quick to point out how incredibly scarily similar his new situation in Minnesota was to Washington. Teddy Bridgewater was speculated to maybe have a shot at being the quarterback for Minnesota, with the team deciding to use all that money for other positions, but I do think it's fair to say they made the right decision moving on and going for a new quarterback, because Jimmy Garoppolo and Drew Brees were both re-signed, so Kirk Cousins was simply the best quarterback available. Remind you of anything? So in a way, the Vikings sort of had to settle for Kirk Cousins. Atlanta will get to in a second, but then when he got to Minnesota, he instantly disappointed. Instead of going to the Super Bowl like Vikings fans thought was possible, Minnesota found themselves getting their asses pounded with the full mast of the Mike Zimmer experience, and at this time, Kirk Cousins was still putting up good stats, but not elite ones, with the captain starting to gain a bit of a reputation for becoming a guy who can never lead his team to a playoff win. And that's not a guy you want to make the second highest paid player in the league, but little by little, he did start to shake off that narrative. In 2019, the Vikings finally won a playoff game in a very calm and collected way versus Drew Brees, and it looked like that narrative was starting to shift a little bit. But this is the way of Kirk Cousins. Do just enough. Never more, never less. Because for the next 3 seasons in Minnesota from 2020 to 2022, I'm just going to put these two players on the screen here in black because both of them were top 6 in all these categories, except one guy is regarded as a generational talent, as he should be, but the other is Kirk Cousins. And I mean, looking at these stats, Kirk Cousins and Josh Allen are actually almost the exact same across the board statistically, except for the fact that Allen had a better team around him, so he won more. But this is where the Kirk Cousins situation gets a little bit more complicated, because obviously you and I both know that Josh Allen is a significantly better player than Kirk Cousins. Far beyond the stats, the eye test is always the best way to evaluate a player. If a super fan watching every Vikings play religiously 5 times a week, they're gonna know better than any advanced analytic. Sometimes. But for many people, Kirk Cousins just didn't seem to pass the eye test. It's so interesting to me though, because it feels like all the stats out there tell us that Kirk Cousins is an elite quarterback, but time and time again, he continuously gets pushed to the side for more flashy, ceiling-rising quarterbacks on QB rankings and all that stuff. But here's the thing, in the past couple of years, Kirk Cousins may actually be showing some signs that he could morph into an even better player than he has been his entire career. I mean, it sounds dumb, but in 2022, when the Vikings went on their magical winning all 11 of their one-possession games thing, Kirk Cousins didn't do anything that crazy that season. Obviously, he had his insane comeback versus the Colts, but overall, in their just embarrassing playoff loss versus the Giants, he didn't play bad, but he didn't elevate his play at all either, which is almost just as bad. But then everything got even more confusing when just this past season, we got one of the best Kirk Cousins seasons ever, if not the best, because I mean, before his Achilles injury that ended his season, Kirk Cousins was debatably on track to win the MVP award. Now, obviously it was a super small sample size, but he was balling out of his mind. But, you know what? We saw this exact same thing before, and it turns out Kirk is also on a contract season when he started playing out of his mind. He did this exact same thing when he wanted to get paid in Washington. But, you know, whatever, let's look past it, and let's just say that all of a sudden, at the age of 35, Kirk Cousins is just starting to enter his prime, and he's only getting better from here. I don't think that's going to be the case. It seems like Kirk was really aware of when his contracts were going to end and when to really shift it into maximum overdrive, but whatever, here we are again. Kirk Cousins is onto another team joining the Atlanta Falcons, a team that has a strong defense when healthy, led by Jesse Bates and AJ Terrell, a top 3 O-line, an amazing skill position group, and their new quarterback is Kirk Cousins, who is once again going to be battling with a first-round quarterback. It feels almost too easy to see what's going to come from the situation in Atlanta. Kirk Cousins simply will not elevate his game anymore. Will the captain be an upgrade over Desmond Ridder? Well, of course. I mean, my left testicle could have done a better job too, but maybe giving Cousins $100 million guaranteed just for a potential wild card appearance and, at best, divisional round loss just is not the move. You know, it's been long said that Kirk Cousins is the greatest businessman in the NFL, with the way he and his agent have been able to lock up guaranteed deals right after Kirk Cousins balls out of his mind, but I tend to look at Kirk in a whole nother way, okay? Kirk Cousins is a con man. Plain and simple. A con man who isn't going to take your money and leave, but he's going to do a lot worse. He's going to give you just a little bit less than what you asked for. So by the time Kirk Cousins leaves Atlanta, Falcon fans are probably going to be feeling the same way Washington and Minnesota fans felt. Confused as to if the time Kirk spent with your organization was positive, negative, or worth forgetting in some 24-hour-long Jack Daniels cruise. As of right now, Kirk Cousins literally has a win percentage of 52%. The man is simply the Patrick Mahomes of Derek Carr's. There is no better tier 2 quarterback than Kirk Cousins. He does everything better than Baker Mayfield, but nothing better than Matthew Stafford, and that will never change until the day he retires. So, Atlanta, you probably got yourselves in a bad situation. But whatever, if you enjoyed this video, then tell me in the comments, because I'm sort of trying a new strategy here. I'm going to be doing the documentary still, but I just want to know how you guys like these shorter videos, because honestly, they're pretty fun to make. But yeah, just let me know in the comments. And if you like this video, then watch this video that I just made on the tragedy of the 49ers organization over the past 20 years or so. It's pretty good, trust me. Thanks to all my Patreons for pledging $1, but anyways, until next time.